Okay, so we mentioned yesterday, guys, it's a very important thing, which is I need to make sure my job to reduce the risk or to mitigate the risk. In order to mitigate or reduce the risk to an acceptable level for my organization, I need to do one thing which is important. I need to start to apply controls or countermeasures. Bravo, Cesar, Shaza. So controls and countermeasure means it's a way to reduce the risk. Okay, and we mentioned there is 3 types of controls exist.
Yes, physical control.
Physical control.
Operation control.
Okay.
And technical control.
Okay, so technical control, physical control, technical control,
and management control.
Okay, perfect. So we have 3 types of controls, and I will explain a little bit further today a new point that I have not covered yesterday. So managerial controls means we are talking about the management perspective when it comes to risk. Okay, how management looks at things in your organization. Okay, I will give you another example rather than the one I gave you yesterday. So management means, okay, let's say that you brought your own device, your iPhone. Are you able, using your iPhone, to connect to our wireless within the company? Okay, whether you are allowed or no, who can tell? Okay, if the management never say anything, you can do whatever you want. Okay, if the management say nothing about smoking, you can smoke anywhere in the company, right? But policies are made to make things clear to everyone. Okay, and that's why, guys, when you hop to inside airplane, what they will tell you in the first 5 minutes you are sitting in the airplane, they will tell you smoking is prohibited everywhere in this airplane, right? They will tell you exactly what you, and they said, they always saying, if you violated this policy, you will end up going to jail, or maybe you would be under laws, right? And the same exact thing in our companies. We need to state what is allowed and what is not allowed. Otherwise, anyone can do whatever he wants, and he can cause a damage to the company. If I said if I never said anything about your device, then anyone can bring his own iPhone or tablet, and maybe this tablet is infected by a virus or worm, and he can connect it to my network. And what will happen is he will start to infect or spread the worm within my network, right? So the management need to be clear and need to have a controls. So what is the management controls? Because management doesn't have technical controls. So the management will state what they like to see and what they don't like to see. So they were saying, bring your own device. We are allowing bring your own device, but in one condition. We need to scan your device. We need to implement some security on your device. Or they will say in the beginning, I worked in a company, they said, don't bring your own device. We don't want you, and they call it at that time, bring your own disaster. Because they think that when you bring a phone, or you bring a tablet from your home, or you bring your own PC, your PC is full of viruses and full of worms, and you wanted to try to connect it to our network? No way. So they always call it bring your own disaster. And they were prohibiting to bring any one of these devices into your network. Okay, guys? Okay. So what we call this management controls. And the management controls is policies, okay? Another management controls, okay, which is very common, is training, okay? It's not something technical, it's not something physical, it's training and awareness, okay? Now I need management, they said, okay, you know what? I need to increase the awareness of my employees about security. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna conduct training. I'm gonna get someone from outside or even internally to conduct the training to spread the knowledge about cybersecurity within the organization. So everyone needs to be aware that there is a cybersecurity risk of using computers. Okay, so this is also managerial thing. It's not technical, it's not physical. So they always think that training and awareness and policies and procedures are always written. Okay, But again, guys, you need to understand that policy end of day, as I mentioned, it's a document. End of day, it's a document. And I called it a document without a teeth. You cannot enforce it. You need a way to enforce your policies. Okay, so if I said, don't bring your own devices here, okay, that means I need here some technical controls to really enforce this policy. Because maybe someone who doesn't really care, or he doesn't even read the policies, okay, and he said, okay, I will get my phone and connect it here. So how can I enforce a policy? By technical control. Okay, and I will give you another example here in the technical control. So technical control, we are trying to enforce the policies. So this is my policy saying don't bring your own device. That means the help desk team will have a clear instruction here. If someone brings them a device from home, okay, he cannot connect. Okay, but let's say that this guy is very smart and very sneaky. When he brought his device, he said, I will not ask the help desk team. So the help desk team, I know they will not connect my device. What I will do, I will bring my own device. Let's say I bring my laptop from home, and I seen a nice port in the wall here, a network board. I will just connect a cable from this board to my computer, and let's see if it's gonna work or not. Okay, so this is might happen.
Okay.
So in this time, guys, the technical control will say you need to disable this ports until you get approval. So even if he brought his device and even he connected to the board, it will not work. Why? Because you have done technical controls, which is disabling this port until you get an approval, or until you get a network authentication or network authorization. Okay, guys? Ustaz Abtisam is saying checkpoint, or Ustaz Alamia is saying network authentication. But we understand now. So the policy itself, it will not stop user from misbehaving. Okay, you need a technical control to really enforce the policy, and that's why you always see technical control and policy going hand in hand. The management will say something, and you, as a technical person, will strive, or you will make sure this thing is applied. I'll give you another example. Let's say that the management say, I don't want to see anyone accessing a website, which is social media during working hours. Okay, you can really say whatever you want, and if you don't implement any technical control here, you will find half of your employees are in social media during working hours. So how can I enforce this? There is tools called web filtering, and web filtering is basically it filters the traffic to the internet. So I can implement web filtering application. If someone is trying to access a website, which is social media, it will block his access. So now I have a policy saying, no one can access social media. And in the same time, I have a technical solution to really stop these guys to access the internet or to access the social media websites. So you guys understand what I'm saying here?
Yes, we also see that control in the big company in the network in Active Directory. When we made the DHCP and add a client, we use these policies for
exactly.
specific client.
Very good point you said. So technical controls also on the same example. If you guys also remember, okay, I will tell you one thing that Ustaz Nasiba was trying to say here is, Nasiba was saying that even if you bring your own device, okay, and you try to connect to the network, you have something called DHCP. And the DHCP is basically is a server that actually is assigned to you an IP address, okay? So if you are not part of the network, if you're not part of the domain, if you try to talk to the DHCP and saying, give me an IP address, because as we mentioned before, the last week, you need an IP address to be able to communicate to the internet and to be able to communicate within the network. The DHCP will see that you are not part of the domain, and he will never release for you an IP address. So this is another technical control to ensure that no one can bring his own device and get an IP address and spread worms or spread virus within your net. So again, so policies are documents showing the intent of the management to see whether it's allowed or not allowed, and it has to be clear. Is this thing allowed or no? Okay, and then the technical control is there to enforce policies. Okay, so you said, I don't want anyone to access this website. That means I will have a web filtering solution here to block the access here. Because if you leave it for the, if you leave it for the users, okay, they will watch movies and they will be in social media all day. So you need a technical control to enforce the policies. Okay, guys? And that's why in the airplane, when you get inside the airplane, they will say, first of all, smoking is prohibited everywhere in the airplane. Did they leave it this way? No. They will add a technical control. They will add the smoke detectors in everywhere inside the airplane. Why they added the smoke detectors? So if someone doesn't listen to this policy, or someone decided to go ahead and smoke as well, what will happen? The smoke detectors will detect him and will report him. Do you get that? Why policies and technical control going hand in hand? They're going together, okay? And we mentioned also there's something called physical controls. And the physical controls, guys, in a very basic way, means I will try to make sure no one physically can access my data center or the computer room, or sometimes they say server rooms. It's called data center, server room, or whatever. What I mean by this, guys, I don't want anyone to access my data. If someone managed to get to my servers here, he can destroy my servers. He can put an USB and steal the data. He can view the data. Okay, which is all of this stuff is actually violating for your data privacy and data confidentiality. Okay, so this is controls in general. Okay, guys, but controls itself in natural or in types is different. It has also types. So I will just this is a point that I didn't tell you yesterday. So we have something called preventive control. Okay, and we have type of controls called detective controls, and we have type called corrective controls, and we have something called compensating controls. Okay, what is the difference? Okay, let's say for physical, guys, I need all of them to make sure I build something called security or defense in depth. I will explain what is defense in depth in 1 second. So let's go and here and talk about physical and preventive. Preventive, that's I want to stop the attack to happen. Okay, so if someone coming here to my data center room and he won't try to enter, I want to prevent him to enter. So I will add a very advanced lock. Okay, so this is preventive. Why preventive, guys? It will stop this guy to get inside the room. Okay, so guys, the attendance, Derek will make sure that he will notice this, guys. Don't worry. Okay. So again, for each type of these categories, we have preventive, detective, and corrective, and compensating. I will explain here, Shaza, and then I will talk about firewalls just in 1 second. Okay, so what is the lock is gonna do, guys? The lock is gonna stop this person to get inside the room. This is mean preventive control. I prevent the attack to happen. Okay, how about detective controls? Why I need detective controls? Let's say that this guy was clever enough to bypass my preventive control, to bypass the lock over here. Okay, guys, for attendance, can you guys raise your hands for a couple of seconds so Mr. Derek can take the attendance? So everyone, do you know how to raise your hands? Okay. MashaAllah, I see 24 already is 26, 27. Okay. Okay.
Mr. Shadi.
Yes.
Yeah, you just talked about IDS and IPS, but you said a third thing. I didn't catch it. What was it?
Okay. So you mean I have not talked about IDS and IBS. I will talk about IDS and IDS in 1 second, but I'm talking about physical attacks now. Okay.
Okay.
So physical attacks means you have someone physically are going to your data center room. This is your data center. Okay. And this guy is physically is trying to enter the data center. So we said that we will add preventive control. Preventive control here means I don't want this guy to get nearby my server. So I will add a lock. Lock means it will stop him to do his attack. Okay, guys? So far, so good?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Let's say that this guy, as I said, is clever and he managed to bypass my preventive control. He have some skills to really bend this lock and get inside the room. I need to have another control that is gonna allow me to detect his actually entrance of this room. So detections. Detection means that someone have already passed your preventive and now he's entering your room, so I wanted to detect. So camera system can show me that he's inside this room, right? Motion detections can tell me this guy is inside the room. So if you was not able to prevent, you will be able to detect his movement by camera system or by motion detection. Okay, guys, make sense?
Yeah.
So far? Okay.
Yeah.
But let's say now I already detect his motion, his active malicious move inside my data center. I need to have something called corrective control. Corrective control, if I found any issues or incident in my room, I should be able to call the police, or I should be able to call a guard to go check who is in my room right now. Okay, so this is what we call it corrective controls. Okay, guys, so I need preventive to stop the attack. What if the attacker was able to bypass? I need a detective controls. Why? Because I will, once I find he is inside the room, okay, that means I need to do my corrective. Why? Because if I left him here and I detect his motion, I didn't do anything, he will go ahead and destroy my data center. I need to have my corrective control very quick applied. Okay, means once I detect someone malicious inside the room, I can send a guard within 2 minutes. Otherwise, the attacker will do whatever he wants. Exactly. So corrective control is taking an action to stop the attacker to proceed for his action. And this correction control need to be quick enough, okay, more quicker than the attacker movement inside the room. Do we understand now, guys?
Yeah.
So protective, preventive, detective, corrective. Okay. And another thing that's also kind of controls that exist is called compensating controls. What we mean by compensating controls? Let's say that's compensating controls mean if I cannot apply controls because I have any issues, I can have another compensating control. Let me give you an example so compensating controls will be clear for you guys. Okay, so let's say I have Windows XP, and this Windows XP is holding very important system, okay, and this system I cannot really migrate it to any other servers. Okay, but we know that XP is out of support, and it's full of vulnerabilities. It's very weak. Okay, anyone can exploit it remotely. Okay, but I cannot move the system now. Okay, and even if I add firewall here, the Windows itself, okay, guys, the Windows itself is very vulnerable. Okay, so even the firewall and even the antivirus will not stop an attack to the Windows XP itself because it's very vulnerable. So what can I do? I can do a compensating controls. Means instead of this server being in a normal network, so anyone can see that it's a Windows XP, I can take the server and put it in isolated network, okay, where only one user or two users that you really need the system, okay, they can access. So this is what we call it by compensating control. I cannot apply enough control to protect my system, So I do a workaround until I found a way to migrate the system to more secure server. Okay, guys?
Yeah.
Okay, now I will go back and I will explain one more thing. Sorry, I just took so much time here today, but this is a control thing is important. So we agreed that we have 3 ways to reduce the risk, okay, by implementing controls, and the control is going to be physically or technically or managerial. Okay, and we said there is our types of let's say I will talk about technical now. Okay, in technical controls also, guys, we have preventive, we have detection, we also have corrective. So we have the 3 types as well. So let's say that you have a very important system, and this system you wanted to make sure no one can access this system. So you wanted to stop the attack to happen. So what we will do, you will apply some sort of technical control to stop the attack to reach to this system. And that's why some of you already have mentioned, I can use a firewall. So firewall in this type is working as a preventive control because it prevents the connection to this system. Okay, guys?
Yeah.
Okay, let's say there is so many techniques to bypass the firewall. Bypass firewall means to bypass the firewall and reach the system. Okay, I need to have a detection controls. Detection controls saying someone have bypassed and he reaches the system and he started to play with this system or to change the system properties. Okay, so I can install here in this system something called IDS, intrusion detection system. And what is intrusion detection system in very simple way? Okay, guys, you can lower your hands now. Okay, what is intrusion detection system in this way? It's a system that can feel any intrusion into the system, and then it will report it to the administrator. So if you have already tried to change the registry of this system, if you have tried to delete files, if you have tried to install files in this system, and you were not supposed to add, so what will happen, guys, it will report what you're doing to an administrator. And they called it IDS system or IPS system. Okay, guys? And you need also to have corrective controls. And what is the corrective controls in this case? It's important to know. What is the corrective controls, guys? Corrective controls means you need to have an incident handling team. Okay, have you guys heard about incident handling before? Very nice. Who said Shahd is saying backup? Yes. Okay, incident handling means team. If a team, it's a team who is there in your network or your organization to look for incidents. Okay, if an incident happened, so we mentioned that IDS will send the logs to the administrator here. The administrators will say, okay, oh, looks like a real incident, a real attacks. Let me call the incident team. So the incident team, they will have a plan to isolate this system, okay, from the network, and they start to investigate what happened and make sure that the system would be able to recover from this incident. Okay, and this is what we called it the incident response team. Okay, so this administrator, the one he was monitoring the system and he detected there is something malicious, he will call the incident team. The incident team, they will come and isolate the system, make sure that they isolate it from the attacker. This is an important thing. And then they will start to investigate what happened exactly in this system. And they start, if they find out there was a real attack and someone was trying to misuse the system, they will try to recover the system to the original state, okay, by backup or by restoration. And this is the incident team. Okay, guys? And that's why if you guys look at the jobs right now that's in LinkedIn, you will find jobs called Layer 1 SOC Analyst. I will explain this, why it's important, okay? And you will find something called Layer 2 SOC Analyst. Okay, and you will find something called layer 3 SOC analyst. Have you guys seen something like this in LinkedIn before? And what is SOC team?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that anyone
Yeah.
who checked the LinkedIn recently, you find, especially in
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia, I have seen it a lot. Okay,
Yeah.
so what is it all about here, guys? This layer 1 SOC, what he's gonna do is gonna be the one who's sitting and monitoring anything suspicious. Okay, so anything suspicious is being detected by who? By the SOC analyst over here. So the SOC analyst will be monitoring every single system in your network, and he will look at the logs coming from these systems and coming from IDSs. Once he found something interesting that looks like an attack, he will transfer this case to the incident response team. They call the incident response team layer 2. So you are working in detection. So SOC layer 1 SOC member will look for detecting any incident. Once he detects an incident, he will move the incident right away to layer 2. Layer 2 will be the incident response team. The incident response team will take an action. I wanted this attack to not spread all over the network. I wanted to mitigate this attack. So what they will do, they will isolate the system, they will try to eradicate the malicious activity, and they try to recover the system to the original state. Okay, and that's why we call them layer 1, layer 2. Layer 3, they do something called threat hunting. Okay, and I know this is like a kind of new terminology, but what the threat hunting is, they are not waiting for the SOC number for the layer 1 and layer 2. They looking inside your environment and looking for anything malicious happening. And once they find anything malicious, they will start to act upon it. So they are not waiting for logs. They are not waiting for the incident response. They are hunting for threats within your organization. And that's why you find yourself here, very interesting. You find yourself when you are, and I have worked in a layer 1 SOC and a layer 2 SOC. Okay, so here, these guys are the one who's responsible for detection. Okay, and this layer over here is responsible for incident response, and this layer is responsible for threat hunting, and all of them are working in this category, detection. I wanted technical control that is gonna be allowing me to detect any threats within within my organization. Okay, so now you understand the big picture. Okay.
Yeah.
So technical controls are 3 types. Preventive. Okay, we talked about preventive. And what is preventive is, okay, I need to implement a solution to stop the attack. Okay, but what if the attacker managed to bypass the preventive control? I have already applied, firewalls and web filtering and everything, but he managed to bypass it. Okay, then I have a team dedicated for detections. Detection means they have some tools that allow them to collect the logs from everywhere inside my network and analyze these logs, and then finally can say there is an incident happening or no. Once they found an incident, they will escalate this incident to the incident response team, and the incident response team will make sure to stop the incident from getting really bigger and becoming a disaster. Okay, guys? And then we have these guys in layer 3. They are working in a team called threat hunting. And the threat hunting, as I mentioned, they are not waiting for incident. They will keep looking inside your environment for something called IOCs, or indication of compromises. They will look for it. They will not wait for someone to tell them. Okay. So indication of compromises, will be the threat hunting jobs. And the threat hunting is a very big topic, and I'm telling you, very rewarding job right now, because you need to be very well educated. You need to get knowledge from outside. So maybe a new attacks happen in Brazil, and they were attacking so and so and so. So you go and check what happened in Brazil, okay? And you're gonna look at the indication of compromise of the Brazilian company. okay? And you said, oh, this has happened there, this has happened there. Let me see if I can see in my network indication of compromises, like the one that happened in Brazil. So you need to be really, really well updated about what's happening in the world, and you really, in order to work as a threat hunter. Okay, guys? I'm sorry that I took so much time to talk about the revision. I just wanted to give a quick revision, but you know, the topics is important. So I took my time to explain all these topics. Okay, guys. Right now, I think we are good for a break. We started 9, so it's 9. It's now around 9. Sorry, we started 9, so it's around now 10 to 9, 10 to 10, right? Okay, so can we go for a break, guys, and we come back and we gonna do a quick lecture?
Okay.
Okay. So how many minutes for break? Okay. Oscar, Shaza is saying 15. I will accept 15 because I know it takes some time to get the dates and the coffee ready. So, okay. So we'll go inshallah for 15 minutes break and then we come back. Okay, guys?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Okay, guys, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, sir, it's
Okay.
clear.
Did you guys enjoy the tea break?
Yes, very much.
Okay. I'm very happy that you guys enjoyed your tea break. Okay, inshallah, we'll go for more tea breaks often so you guys can enjoy it. Okay, so now we're gonna talk again about the topic that we opened yesterday, and I will have to emphasize it's very important topic because this is why they will hire you in any organization. They will hire you to reduce the risk of cybersecurity attacks. No matter what kind of jobs you will get in cybersecurity, the main focus is to reduce the risk. Okay, guys?
Yeah.
So far, so good. Okay, so let's go and again and define what is a risk. We mentioned yesterday it's a likelihood or the probability of a threat exploiting a vulnerability. And I give you a very nice example of the house and the thieves, and you have a very important assets within your house.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So, yeah, do you guys remember this example? Okay, I wanted you this example always to be. I don't know if you guys watched a movie called Home Alone. Have you guys seen a movie called Home Alone? One,
Yes,
two.
it's the best.
It's the best, right? If you guys recall from this movie, okay, I'm sorry that to use this movie and as an example, but again, in the movie there was two thieves. They were looking to get an opportunity to actually break in one of these rooms, in one of these houses. And they waited to make sure there's people inside the house. They leave the house, okay? And they picked exactly the day of the year that everyone is traveling and everyone is busy. And, you know, maybe the police station also taking days off, okay? To break inside the house. So the attackers are very smart and they're looking for the vulnerability. They're looking for the house that doesn't have anyone inside, so it will be easy for them to break in and steal the house. Okay, and that's exactly what happened to our information assets right now. It's within our premises, it's within our house, and this assets is very valuable for the company. So it's really important for us. This is our assets. Okay, and once we are connected to the network, okay, we open the door for the attacker to get in. So we have the risk or the probability of one of these threats to exploit any weakness. We will talk about weakness and vulnerabilities today, and get their hands on our valuable assets. What will happen when they get their hands on a valuable asset? This is what will happen. Loss. We're gonna incur either a financial loss or reputation loss, or even we can lose our business and be bankrupt. Okay, we explained this yesterday. So everyone understand what does that mean?
Yes. For example, in the simple ways, when we don't use our email for a long time, we come and use it after 1 year or 2 years. Sometimes we find it it's an attack and it's can't work.
Yes, so I agree with Ustaz Nasiba. She is giving a good example, but I wanted here, guys, you to focus in one thing. Yesterday, we mentioned threats as any potential danger. Okay, now today I will open this topic a little bit. What we mean by potential danger here? Okay, potential dangers here means anything that can compromise your confidentiality, okay, your integrity, your availability. Okay, so now we need to be more specific. Now we need to talk about more scientific way. Okay, so yesterday we explained what is a threat. A threat, I told you, it's a bad guy over there. He wanted to cause a harm to you. Okay, but what is really threats in a more technical way? It's the potential danger to compromise your confidentiality, your integrity, your availability. Let's give an example so things will be clear. Okay, so let's say that you have a database, and the database here, okay, include all your clients, okay, and their for example, their credit cards numbers, okay. So if an attacker managed to see your database, or he managed to dump your database, what that means? He compromises your confidentiality because he was not supposed actually to have an access to your database. Do you guys agree?
Yeah.
And this is what the confidentiality is all about. We mentioned confidentiality means stopping unauthorized access, right? So if he sees the data only, he compromises your confidentiality, and he can manage to actually to give you a really bad loss. Why? Because he can steal this data, he can sell it in the dark web, he can use this credit card to do some malicious stuff. So he compromises your integrity, confidentiality. What if this attacker, okay, managed to go to your database and started to add or to delete things from your database? Okay, he's unauthorized, so he managed to really compromise your confidentiality, and now he's modifying or tailing your database. That means he compromised what else? He compromised your integrity. Okay, this data I cannot trust anymore because the attacker maybe added some malicious line of codes or rows in this database. Okay, so we mentioned yesterday, threats are potential dangers, things that can harm us. How they can harm us in more technical way? They can compromise our confidentiality or integrity or availability. How can an attacker really harm our availability? Let's say the attacker, right after he copied this data, he deleted this data. What's gonna happen to this data? It's not gonna be available anymore. If I don't have a corrective control, like a backup, I lost all my data, right? So the potential dangers can compromise your confidentiality, integrity, or availability. Okay, guys?
Okay.
Do we, everyone agree? And now we understand what is the threats in more technical way? Okay.
Yes.
We will talk today in very deep details about vulnerabilities and what kind of vulnerability exists and what type of vulnerability. So wait for vulnerability. Okay. I just wanted to explain what is a threat. Okay. Now threats in natural, okay, it's divided to two types of threats. It can be man-made threats, or it can be natural or natural threats. So man-made threats, you have a human who's doing this. Okay, guys? A human who is actually doing SQL injection or who attacking your database to compromise your confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Okay? Or it can natural. It can be natural. What we mean, we have an earthquake, we have a fire, and the fire destroyed my data, destroyed my availability. Okay? Or I have electricity spike in my data center. Okay, so threats can be man-made or it can be natural. Threats also can be internally or externally. Can someone explain to me what we mean by internally, externally?
Yes, can I do it?
Yeah, go ahead.
The internal threat, it might be from an employee for lack of knowledge and awareness.
So,
and the external threat maybe by a hacker or an enemy or something.
Okay, I like your explanation, mashallah. So who said Shaza? Is it?
No, it's Maha.
Maha. Maha saying that when it comes to threats, is saying that we have a threat which is internally, means someone within your organization, and externally, someone from external of your organization. Okay, and she said the internally, she will give a good example. She said maybe someone by mistake deleted a file, so he can cause us a harm, right? And externally, like a hacker, someone from outside have a malicious intent. But even internally, guys, there is two types. Okay, someone done something intentionally, and someone done something by mistakes. Okay, so someone done something by mistake, like Maha said, he deleted file by mistake. But sometimes, guys, you know what? Someone intentionally is a threat to your organization. What do we mean? He doesn't like the organization. He knows that you're gonna fire him soon. So he wanted to really hurt this organization. So even the threats when it comes to internally is divided to two categories. Category done something by mistakes, and category who has done something by intention. And you know what? The big companies, sometimes they sending someone as a spy inside the company to steal from them information. Okay, so I'll give you an example. There was very famous news about someone who used to work in Tesla, right? Okay,
Right.
and then he got hired by Lucid. Do you guys know Lucid? It's a nice also electrical car, which is just opened in Saudi Arabia. So it's called Lucid, Tesla and Lucid. And they are now very big competitors in the US. So this guy who used to work in Tesla, when he got hired by Lucid, what he did is he started to copy all his important files from his computer, from other computer, and send it by email to his new email or to a personal email. So when he goes to Lucid and start to work, he can download this file and use it. So even your employees can do something intentionally to harm your organization. He stole some designs for a battery and some other stuff, and he stole. And it's a big lawsuit case in the US right now. And now Tesla is asking Lucid to pay them $1 billion, something like this.
Oh my God.
Okay, guys. So even threats can be internally, and threats internally can be by mistake, accidentally, and can be intention. Okay, guys. So we talked about threats, but inshallah, in a couple of days, we'll talk about threats in more deep details. Okay, but what I wanted you guys to understand from this diagram so far, that I have potential dangerous harm that can harm my system, whether to compromise the confidentiality, integrity, or availability. Okay, and because my system is vulnerable, does have weakness or flaws, this is gonna allow the system to be compromised. And then what happens is you're gonna lose money, or you're gonna lose your reputation, or you can be out of business. This is risk.
Yeah.
Okay, why did I bring risk in this? Because today I'm talking about vulnerabilities. We're gonna talk about vulnerability, but you cannot talk about vulnerability without talking about the big picture, which is risk. This is the one thing. And here, guys, this is the definition of threats. Event that compromise confidentiality, integrity, or availability. Could be malicious human, accidental human, environment threats, like I have mentioned, like a natural threats, like an earthquake or fire or whatever. It can be man-made, or it can be internal or external. We have already talked about this stuff. Okay. Now, if you guys looked at this diagram coming from NIST, and I explained to you guys yesterday what is NIST is all about. NIST is an institution in the US, and the whole sole purpose of this institution is basically to issue standard. And what is the standard is, I have mentioned this also yesterday, standards is a bunch of documents that can tell you how to protect your system in a proper way. How they develop this standard? They brought specific guys from the industry, very specialized in cybersecurity. They have their own team of specialized IT security, and they will sit together and they started to write the standard. Okay. So the standard that we see here, they called it NIST CSF. Okay. CSF standard, stand to critical infrastructure framework. Okay. And in a critical infrastructure framework is developed around 2013 or 2014. Okay. This is during Obama. Why? Because Obama administration at that time, they saw so many cyber attacks in their critical infrastructure, in the banking system, in a water utility, in electricity power grid, in the nuclear facility. So they said we need a proper standard, a proper recommendation that everyone needs to follow in order to mitigate the risk of cyber attacks. So they brought guys from Dell, from Microsoft, and they have their own guys, and they sit together and they started to written the standard here. Okay, and you can see here, guys, what we have seen in this picture. It's called the core standard, the most important thing to do. And the first one here, if you guys can see, it's called identify. What do you need to identify? Okay, and they give you an eye here. Okay, look at this. you need to understand what assets you have, what kind of information assets you have, because you cannot protect things you don't know. Okay, if I told you, if you told you I have a house, I never told you what is inside this house. Okay, and I never told you how important is this stuff in this house. Can you really protect this house? Okay.
No.
If I never tell you how many doors and windows in this house, can you really protect this house? No. So the answer here, in order to protect anything, you need to do asset management. You need to know what is the assets you have. Okay. And also you need to understand what business you are working for. Are you working for banking? What is important for the banking here? Are you working for critical infrastructure, like, for example, a weapons manufacturer company? What is important for us here? So you need to understand your business. Okay. And I will just mention governance very quickly. Governance is all about policies and procedures within your organization. And I will talk about governance in more details later on. But just for now, we'll talk about what sort of policies and procedures within your organization and how top management are dealing with security. Okay, look at this important thing. He said, once you understand what assets you have and your business, and you are well connected with the management, the first thing you conduct is risk management or risk assessment. And what is this risk assessment is all about? If you guys allow me to jump one slide, so I will show you. So now we agree. NIST is an institution in the US to publish standards. One of the most famous standards that NIST come up with is 800 publication, okay, and NIST CCF, okay. What is the standards all about? It's a bunch of documents how to protect your network and how to reduce the risk, okay. And the first items here is to know your assets, you know what kind of system you have, and you conduct a risk assessment, okay, in order to protect your network. Just give me 1 second. I will jump one thing and I'll come back here. Okay, I will see. What we have seen here, guys, okay, in this diagram is something called risk life cycle, okay. So first of all, you need to understand your environment, evaluation for your environment, evaluation for IT infrastructure, for what you have inside your person. The second step is vulnerability identification. You need to understand what weakness you have in your environment. And I will explain why. But again, why I would keep jumping between this page and this page? NIST, that's a group of people who will really understand cybersecurity. They are telling you, in order really to mitigate the risk, the first thing, don't go and buy a firewall. Don't go and buy, you know, encryption or identity management solution. First of all, understand your environment and conduct risk assessment. And in the risk assessment, the first thing they're saying here, know your environment and then look at the vulnerability or weakness in your environment. Okay, guys? So far, so good?
Yeah, so far, so good, yeah.
Once you understand your environment, and once you understand your vulnerability, your weakness, and once you understand the threats to your environment, then look at what the rest of this NIST is saying. Try to protect, which is preventive control. And if you fail to protect, you at least can detect. Okay, so you implement detective control. If you cannot really, once you detect something suspicious, you respond. This is your corrective control or incident controls, and then recover from the incident. Okay, now this NIST diagram, if you are in interview and ask you what is the best way to protect the network and mitigate the risk, say, I want to mitigate the risk by implementing NIST framework, which is consists of 5 cores. I need to identify what I do have inside my organization. I need to implement risk assessment, and then I will be able then to implement the protection control or preventive control, detection controls, responding control, and recovering control from an attack. Okay, does this make sense now? Now
Yeah.
people are understanding what is the standard is all about. The standard is not a scary thing, because I know that in the university when they used to teach us the standard, they used to make like really big deal of a standard to the
Yeah.
point that I hated the word standard. But in reality, standards are there to help us to implement security in a very, very well-mannered way. Okay, guys? Okay, I can see only two. How about the rest?
Yes. Okay.
I just wanted to know that everyone is in the same page. Guys, if the word standard again or NIST is it intimidating you or making you scared, just write it here now saying, okay, I don't understand this topic, because this is very important.
Mr. Shadi,
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
Like ISO to 27,000.
Yes. Yes.
What? Yeah, it's like, is it like Nest?
Yes.
Because I see like when companies get an ISO certification, it means like they're extremely protected. And I also, in one of my subjects at college, they asked what's better for protection. Protection, is it Nest or ISO? But I actually answered that it was Nest, but I don't really know.
Okay,
It's
very
right.
good question from Maha, and thank you for bringing this up. Okay, so ISO, guys, is another standard, and they have a series of families called ISO 27000. Okay, so ISO 27 that Maha is talking about is also another standard to give you recommendation how to protect your network. And if you follow any of the standards, okay, whether NIST or ISO, you will be protected. Why? Because I mentioned also ISO is an international institution that makes sure that you implement controls in order to protect your environment. Okay. What is the difference? Okay, and this is very good question from Maha. Okay. Which one is gonna make me more secure? Okay, I'll tell you what. NIST, guys, you will follow the recommendation, okay, but there is no audit. What we mean by audit, anyone can say, I'm following NIST, okay? How can I assure you following NIST? Okay, this is
like they don't keep logs.
No, they don't have a team who go to inside your organization and they check if you really implemented protection and detection and responding and recovering
Yeah.
controls.
Yes.
They don't do this. Why? Because I told you, NIST is following what? Is following the American government. So you cannot bring NIST. ISO, on the other hand, before they give you the certification of 27,000, okay, what they will do is they will send an auditor to see if you have already implemented all the control or no. And that's why sometimes you find in the LinkedIn, we need 27,001 or 20,000 series auditor. They will send someone and they check if you have followed every single thing in the standard or no. And then accordingly, they will give you the certification or no. And as you mentioned, once you get the certification, it gives to your customer, okay, an indication that you are following really a good standard. You are taking care of your security. Why? Because it's a cycle. First of all, you said, I have already adopted 27,000. So you have implemented every single control that 20,000 was recommended. Okay, not only you have implemented, you brought someone from outside to check if you have implemented or no. And this guy will be independent. Yani it's not your company. That's ISO will recommend someone to do the auditing. Okay, so they will send someone like KPMG or this companies. They call them the Big Four, auditing and consulting companies. Eastern Young and all these big names. So they send one of these guys to go inside your environment and collect evidence if you have already implemented the controls or no. Once he have go through all the controls and made sure that you have implemented, he will go back to ISO and he said, yes, this guy has already implemented ISO. Okay, guys? Okay, Maha, did this answer your question?
Yes.
Yes.
IEEE part of cybersecurity standards? Yes. ISO and IEEE, they have the same standard, which is 27. They come together to build the 27,000 series. Okay, Ustaz Naif? عشان كده, if you looked in line, you will not find it's called ISO only. It's called ISO / something, which is representing the task force from the IEEE. Okay. So I hope that is clarify what is the standard all of them. And that's why a lot of organization guys especially in Saudi Arabia, they are trying to be a 27,000 compliant company. What we mean by compliant means they have already implemented 27,000 standard within their organization, and now they are in their way to get the certification. Once you get the certification, mean the ISO institutions is very confident that you are taking security within your organization in a very serious way, and now your customers can be also trusting you that you're taking certification important in a very serious way. Okay, this is the conclusion of the standard. Okay, guys, but again, I will go back here and just highlight one thing here, which is in any standard, you will find them, they will highlight that you need to conduct risk assessment. And I show you the risk assessment start by knowing what kind of assets you have, okay, and then you implement something called vulnerability identification. So knowing the vulnerability is very important, and that's why it's a topic for our term today. Okay, look at this. Risk assessment, okay, it's part of a bigger picture called risk management. Okay, and what is the risk management is all about? They call it the science or the practice of identifying, monitoring, and limiting the risk to manageable level or to acceptable level for the organization. So this is risk management. We call this is the bigger picture. Risk assessment is a part of risk management. So what is the risk assessment? Is the identification part. Why? Because risk management, guys, it doesn't stop here. Okay, see, once you do the risk assessment, you know what is very risk stuff in your organization after you find your vulnerability and the threats, okay? You come again and do something called risk mitigation. You implement control. So this whole picture, they called it what, guys? They called it risk management cycle. This area only, this risk assessment is about identification of risk. So now we have learned two terminology is very important, okay? In a company, we are talking about risk management. This is a bigger picture. I need to implement risk management methodology within my company to protect my assets. And within the risk management, I need to implement to find out what is my vulnerability, what is my assets, what is my threats, and then conduct risk assessment. Okay, so what is exactly in risk assessment? Because I keep saying risk assessment. Risk assessment, guys, in a very easy way, okay, you will have a document, okay, and this is a document again, okay, saying what? I have asset number A or 1, and this is asset could be a database, okay? The impact if the database is down is very high on my organization, and the threats on my assets or on this asset could be externally or internally, could be natural or environmental, or could be human made. And the vulnerability, it's this this database are running on an old Windows system, for example. Okay, and because it's running over a Windows system, and there is a lot of threats internally, and the impact if this database is down is gonna be huge in my company, I can say with all confidence the risk of losing that database is very high. So you guys understand what is risk assessment here in a very simple term.
Yeah.
Okay, in a very simple term. Risk assessment is like a dangerous level. Risk assessment is in a very simple way of saying, is to evaluate is the risk is high or low. مش قلنا risk is all about what? The probability of a threat, compromise, a vulnerability. Do we agree?
Yes.
Okay.
Shadi,
Yes.
I just want to ask you something about the risk management.
Yeah, sure.
So the Project Management Institute provide project risk management certification. So is it part of this matter?
Yes, risk management is we don't do risk management. Yes, I'm sorry. Who was asking? I'm sorry, I couldn't see the name. Naif. The risk management, we don't do risk management only for IT system. We do risk management for so many stuff. For project, okay. If I'm entering a new project, okay, what will happen if this project will delay or run over a cost, okay, or run over a time, okay? I need to have an element, okay, in my project called risk. And I will have to identify what is the risk of this project run over time or budget or resources. So this is another certification. But I'm explaining the risk management when it comes to IT cybersecurity right now, which is IT infrastructure. But even project, it needs to highlight the risk in any project. Like, for example, you are building a building now, you're constructing. Do you know if you are set 3 months to complete this building and you took 4 months, that means you have to run over the budget because you need more resources, you need more time, you need more equipment. So you need to calculate the risk of running over time. Okay, so even for project management, we read risk management. Okay, let's say I have a company, okay, and this company, they are opening a new branch, something not related to IT at all. They need to run also risk management process. They need to understand what is the threats if I run over time, what is the weakness in my new building, okay, so I can mitigate it, and also how can I really mitigate the risk of this. So we need risk management everywhere. And that's why, guys, I just doesn't want to bring this up, but again, in organization, you find the risk for IT. Sometimes they are not related to IT. They don't report the risk to the IT manager. You know who they are reporting to? They are reporting to the risk management office. And the risk management office, they report directly to the COO. I'm sorry to bring this architect out, but this is.
You mean the PMO?
No. There's something called even within the organization called risk management office. Okay, these are the guys they looking for risk everywhere in the organization. So risk coming from IT, risk from losing very important people from HR, risk of opening a new business line, and this risk will this business line will not be successful. So this all risk will come and being communicated to something called risk management office. Okay, and the risk management office will be briefing the CEO about the new risk. So they will talk about the risk of new business line. They will talk about they are losing so many talent from the sales team. They will talking about cyber security risk with the CEO. So in some organizations, this is the architect or this is the structure of the company. And other organizations that I saw, the risk team for IT, they reporting to someone called the CTO. The CTO is Chief Technology Officer.
So if there is rules for architecture, IT architecture, so this is going to be part of it? The IT
yes, exactly. This is going to be part of it. And you know what I have found also recently? That sometimes risk, they don't report the CTO, they report to the CISO. Okay, CISO is a Chief Information Security Officer, and the CISO, in some organization, they will report the CTO, the Chief Technology Officer, and some organizations they said this is not correct. This is not the right thing to do. The CISO need to report directly to the CCO because there is a conflict of interest between the CTO and CISO. CTO is a Chief Technology Officer. He wanted to adapt technology and he wanted the IT to help the business. So he wanted things to get done quickly. CISO, in other hands, they don't care about things done quickly. They are caring about things done securely. So maybe these guys will not be in a good terms. I wanted to implement a new service, but the CISO says this service is not secure. We need to take some time to study this service. So they will have a conflict of interest. So the CISO, if he sees anything that is not secure, he knows and go and report it right away to CISO, to the CEO. So this is another architecture. The architecture of risk management inside the company has so many diagrams, and I'm telling you, it according to the place that you're gonna work for, you will need to understand the structure. You need to understand who is your manager and who is the manager is reporting to, and accordingly you can tell if this organization are taking cybersecurity threats and risk really serious or no. Because if you find no structure, you can tell anyone anything and that's it. That's a very big bad alarm that this company is not taking serious. And I'm telling you also a very good question, Bassam, and I will keep in the standard, okay, in the standard, whether it's ISO or whether it's NIST, they will go and they check the structure and they will make sure there is a clear structure and responsibilities for everyone working cybersecurity. You cannot just say, okay, this is the CISO, this is you know, network engineer, and that's it. No, what this guy is doing, who is reporting to, what is the structure of IT. So they will make sure even in the standard that you are following this stuff. Okay, guys. Just
so, Mr. Can I ask something? The risk is belong to the management control or physical control?
There is a risk of management. I'm sorry, can
it's belong the risk. This risk it's belong to the management control or
okay, very good
control.
question, Ustaz. Okay, in a risk assessment, Ustaza Nasiba, we are still in this stage. You know where is controls comes to play in this area, risk mitigation. So in risk assessment, as I mentioned, I wanted to understand what is the assets that I'm worried about. I wanted to understand what is the threats that's inside the organization or outside. I wanted to understand what is the vulnerability inside these assets. Okay, and then I will come up with a score, and according to the score, I will do something about it, which comes to risk mitigation. Okay. And risk mitigation, you have so many solutions. You can mitigate the risk, you can reduce the risk to acceptable level, or you can accept the risk, or you can avoid the risk. I talked yesterday about something when I went to work in the nuclear facility. The one thing that's came to my mind, I know the manager there, they were talking about website they wanted to publish. I said, who needs to access this website? Okay, they said there is no one really need to access this website. I said, then why we actually publishing this website? This is a mitigation technique called avoidance. If I really don't need to publish a website, okay, if I have no business needs for someone external to access my website, I need to avoid the risk. And this is called also risk mitigation plan. But the most important thing, that's physical controls and technical controls and managerial controls are all fall in this category, risk mitigation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
It's clear now, yes.
Yeah, clear. Okay, great. Okay, so in the risk assessment, the first step, guys, is identify your assets and assets value. Okay, you need to understand what kind of assets, what kind of criticality of these assets to my business. Okay, because end of day, if you lose your database, it's gonna impact you. Okay, can I put money for this impaction? I will give you an example. Okay, let's say that I have a sales website, and this sales website I'm selling, for example, perfume or whatever. Okay, usually, okay, this website generate 1,000 riyal every day. Okay, 1,000 riyal, because this website is connected to a database and people can buy and purchase stuff online. Let's say I have a denial of service attack and it takes my website, for example, 1 day off. Okay, how much I lost in this case? Okay, this website generating 1,000 riyal revenue every day. Okay, and someone has launched an attack, a denial of service attack, and this website is down. Okay, for 2 days. How much I lost now?
2,000.
Exactly, 2,000. I lost 2,000 reals right now. Why? Because my website that generate revenue is down. So now this is called identifying assets and identifying asset value. How much this asset is making for me. Okay, in some terms, they will say how much it will cost me to recover this asset. Let's say he didn't actually launch a denial of service, he deleted this website, or he actually deleted the database. How much it will cost me to get a technical engineer to recover the database and to recover this website to initial state? It will cost me maybe 2,000. So now I can tell how much loss if this asset is not available. It will cost me 2,000 revenue and 2,000 for the technical team to recover. So the total loss now is 4,000. Sometimes it's easy to calculate the money behind the loss, and sometimes it's not easy. Okay, and that's why, guys, we have two types of calculation, one called quantitative and one called qualitative, because not every single risk I can really put a momentary value for it. So I'll give you an example. Okay, now I lost 4,000 real because my website was down 2 days and I have to recover. But also, I cannot really tell you how much customer I lost because of this. Can you put a money for it? How much reputation I lost because my website was not available for 2 days? I lost my reputation because my website is not there. Everyone is trying to buy perfume now. He goes one day, oh, it's not working. Tomorrow is not working. So maybe he will never come back again. Okay, so this is kind of things that is not going to be able to really tell me, money cannot really tell me how much. So that's why I need sometimes a qualitative measure. The qualitative, I said, if this website is down, it's huge, it's high impact on my business. Someone who say, you know what, this website, we are not really using it for selling or buying anything. We're just putting it to view perfume, and then this person will call us to order the perfume. So then at that time, the risk of losing the website is gonna impact your revenue, but not as if your website, you can use it to buy and sell. So now it went from high to medium, okay? And that's why in risk assessment, we have two ways to do risk assessment, quantitative and qualitative. Okay, guys, I will go in details, inshallah, in qualitative and quantitative, inshallah, in one lecture. But for now, I just told you what is the difference between them. Okay, guys. This is what I wanted to be your mentality from now on in this course, till the end of the course. Sorry, I'm not following the chat right now, but I hope that everything is clear right now. If you guys have any issues so far, you can tell me before we talk about this guy. This guy is a Chinese Lord War. So he used to be in a lot of wars in his time. Okay, his name is Sun Tzu. Okay, without T, Sun Tzu. Okay, and he wrote a book. It's called The Art of War. Okay, and what he wrote in this book, it's applicable, very applicable to our environment right now, to our cybersecurity war that we see right now. I told you I will tell you in a few minutes why this is becoming a war. Okay, so what this guy said, it said there is 3 situations. He said, if you know yourself, okay, and you know your enemy very well, okay, so you know where is your weak points, you know where is your strengths, you know where is you can attack your enemy, you know what is their weak points, you know what is their strengths, you can win in 100 battles. You will never lose. Why? Because you know yourself very well and you know the enemy very well. Okay?
Yeah.
If you know yourself, but you don't know your enemy, okay, so you know what is your weakness, but you don't know anything about your enemy, there is a chances to win or lose. Okay? Because you don't know anything about your enemy. Okay? And if you don't know yourself and you don't know your enemy, you will lose in all these battles. In 100 battles, you will lose them because you don't even know yourself. You don't know where is your weak point. You don't know where is your strength point. So you don't even know yourself. How you can win a war? We understand this very well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, guys, let's apply this to our IT system. Okay, if you know your vulnerabilities, okay, and you know the threats to your organization, okay, you can come up with a mitigation that can stop someone to compromise your network. Do we agree?
Yeah.
Okay. If you know yourself, you know your vulnerability, but you don't know what kind of threats out there and what is their capability to harm you, some of these threats will be able to harm you and some will not be able. So there is a chance 50-50. Okay?
Yeah.
Let's go look for the worst case scenario. You don't know yourself. You don't know what is your vulnerabilities. You don't know what kind of threats exist in the wild. What is the vulnerability? What is the chances that there is a threats will compromise your network? Again, you don't know your vulnerabilities, so you don't know nothing
Very high
about your
chance.
environment, and you don't know anything about your opponent or your threats. So it's very high that you will be compromised.
Yeah.
Very high. It's like 100 times % that you will be compromised because you don't know even where is your weakness. Okay, guys?
Yeah.
You don't know what is your vulnerability, and that's what I wanted you guys to apply. First thing, when you get to your any new job, okay, the first thing, okay, look, this is the next page will tell you. The first point, you must know yourself. You must understand what technology you use within your organization. You must understand what is infrastructure. Okay, you must understand what is the entry point to your organization and how can someone can approach your network. Okay, physically and logically. Okay, you must understand what kind of mentality of people they work inside the organization and the process. Okay, and then here, once you know your technology and infrastructure and the people who work, you start to look for vulnerabilities. Okay, and I will talk what is vulnerabilities in 1 second. One, vulnerabilities mean your weakness. Okay, so in order to start any assessment, okay, you need to have a list of all the assets you have, whether it's hardware, software, network connectivity, LAN, WAN, application. This is need to be done first day. But it will take more time. But there is so many tools now. It's called asset discoveries. Asset discoveries will help you to find out about your hardware, software, application running on these machines, and give you a nice diagram for your all assets. Once you have a list of all your assets, now you've done a great job. Now you know yourself. Now you know your technology. Okay, now the second step, and this is a step also in risk management, is find the vulnerabilities. These assets are running software, and software is vulnerable by default. Why? Because we wrote this software, and this software could be outdated, or could need to be patched, or or someone implemented in a wrong way. So this is all open security holes or security weakness. So in this case, once you list all your assets, you come and say, okay, you know what? I need to find the vulnerabilities. Okay, how can I find the vulnerabilities? So there's 3 ways to find the vulnerabilities, guys. First of all, you can take every assets that you have in your organization and do it manually. You can go online. There's something called vulnerability database or exploit database, CVE. I will explain what is CVE. It's called Common Vulnerability Database. Okay, and this Common Vulnerabilities Database can tell you if your asset is vulnerable or no. But the problem with this way, that if you have 1,000 assets here or 100,000 assets, if you do it manually, it will take forever. Why? Because you will take every asset and go and look it online until you find a vulnerability and see if this vulnerability is applicable to you or no. So this is, we called it manual way. Who is using manual way? Oil and gas. Some oil and gas company, because they have limited number of assets, they do this. Some manufacturing, okay, they have limited number of system within their environment, okay, they will go and they check it online. Because they, for so many consideration, I will not tell you when, but we can do it manually. Okay, so is another way? Yes, because you have so many assets here, you can use automated way. Automated way, they call the automated way scanners. A scanner for vulnerability. So a scanner of the vulnerability is basically a software that can tell, you can tell the software what kind of assets you have, and this scanner have a database for all the vulnerabilities that exist. And he's matching. Okay, you have a Windows machine XP. Okay, let me look in my database for XP. Oh, XP does have 10 vulnerabilities. I will show you in the results 10 vulnerabilities for this Windows XP machine. Okay, oh, you have a Cisco router, this model. Let me check in my database. You check the database, you find the vulnerability. It will show you, and it will show you the vulnerability in the Cisco router or device. Okay, guys.
Okay.
So the second way, the first way is manual way. The second way is automated way. Okay. The third way is in between. What is in between? Some companies, they cannot afford to run a scanner in their network. Why? Because they said that, okay, you know what? If we run a scanner, it will disturb likenesses. Exactly, Anay. But they will say that if we run a scanner, it can disturb our production. So they build something called test environment. And the test environment is very similar to the production environment. And they will run a scan within this environment to find out what is their vulnerability. Okay, so there's 3 ways to find your vulnerability. The first thing you need to do is finding your assets, whether it's hardware, software, whatever. Okay, once you find your assets, you move on to run a scanner or to do it manually to find what is the vulnerability. Once you find the vulnerabilities, we look at the threats. Okay, so let me finish here and just go back here, guys. Here, if you can see, the first thing, once you find your assets, is vulnerabilities. Okay,
yeah.
And then here after this, exposure determination. What is exposure? Not all the vulnerabilities are critical. Some of the vulnerabilities are very critical. So it's known that it's being exploited in the wild, and someone written for them and exploit. So this is, you need to really take care of them right away. So some of these vulnerabilities are critical. Some of them are high, some of them are medium. So who is going to tell us the exposure determination? Something called CVE. And the CVE website will give a score for every vulnerability. So for example, you run a vulnerability scanning in your Windows machine, and it found a vulnerability with a score of 9. Okay, it's critical, and the CVE is pointing as a critical. That's mean this vulnerability is well known, it's been exploited in the wild, and it exists in your environment. Once you find something critical, you need to go ahead and try to remediate it or to try to rectify the issue right away. Okay, so the CVE score, okay, depends on so many factors. I don't want to go through CVE because it's a big topic, but CVE will say, does this vulnerability compromise confidentiality? Did this vulnerability compromise integrity? Did this vulnerability compromise availability? Can someone run this vulnerability remotely? Can someone from outside your network can compromise your vulnerability? Or can someone needs to be locally inside your network to compromise this vulnerability? And according to all these factors, is it compromising your availability, integrity? Can someone done it remotely? Can someone done it from your local network? What kind of skills of the attackers who can exploit this vulnerability? That we need a very high skilled attackers, or a normal attackers, or even a script kiddie attackers. According to all these factors, they will give a number. And this number is very well known for all the vulnerabilities. So once you have this number, it can give you exposure determinations. Okay? If you have a threat, if you will get evaluate the threats, you can tell after this, you can tell the score of risk assessment according to the threats. Okay, so I will go about the threats later on, but again, the most important thing for me is you understand these 2 parts of risk management, of risk assessment. So asset discovery, vulnerability identification, and then the score of this vulnerability according to the CVE. Okay, so far so good, guys. Okay, let me move on to this part. Okay, so what kind of vulnerability exists? Okay, and this is also just to open your eyes for what kind of vulnerability exists. So here, there is a vulnerabilities in hardware. Okay, if you don't believe me, I have already attached here an article about hardware security in AMD processors and Intel processors. If you guys have any doubts, you can go 2 years ago back or 3 years ago. There was very famous attack called meltdown attacks. It was attacking specifically Intel processors. And what it's gonna do, it's gonna attack the processor and leak the data, special private data within the processor, where the processor keeps the password and encryption keys and all this stuff. And who discovered this vulnerability? A group of researchers from Google, okay? And it's applicable. And as soon as Intel and AMD found out about this vulnerability, they already released a patch for this vulnerability, and they try to avoid the same issues. It's called the side channel attacks in their new generation. Okay, guys? So we have our, just let me just give you a quick diagram. So any system IT consists of hardware. This is going to be our processor, memory, you know, hard drive, all the stuff. So this could be attacked, okay? Because, and it could also come with vulnerability, okay? We also have this system connected to networks, okay? And we are using something called TCP/IP to connect. This is our nice protocol that we talked about that can really transmit data from two different devices. Do we agree? You know,
yes.
When the TCP has been implemented back in 80s, and TCP is well known that it's vulnerable for so many attacks, like denial of service attack and so many things, okay? So even our network and our network protocols like ARB, okay, like IP addresses, okay, spoofing and all the stuff, it could be also vulnerable, okay, because the protocol itself, guys, is being built in 80s, and we didn't really look at the security level in this protocol, okay? That's why we're using our telnet protocol, which is insecure by design. So the hardware could be vulnerable, the network devices and the network protocols would be vulnerable, okay? Database that we are using within this environment could be also vulnerable, because, you know, end of day, database is code. Someone written, okay, a code that to actually create a database and insert rows in this database. So this could also have vulnerability, okay? The operating system itself, the OS, could be vulnerable, okay? The physical security, someone have already left the data center room open, okay? We didn't apply very restrictive access control to stop someone to get in. So there is so many vulnerabilities, okay? So this is something to know about vulnerabilities. So our job, when you go to environment, you need to understand your system, you need to understand the hardware, you need to understand the network, and you need to understand what kind of database you're running, and you need to understand physical. And that's why I'm saying, and this is taken from me, working as a security blue team with a person who's going to defend the network is a very hard job. Why? Because you need to really have your eyes open. So many vulnerabilities exist in our system, and it can really lead to a compromise, okay? And the attacker needs only one vulnerability to compromise the system. Okay, guys? So far, so good?
Okay, so far, so good.
Okay. Also, okay, we have issues in our software. What we mean by software, guys? Okay, I explained to you guys now that the system consists of hardware, right? And operating system, and what else? Databases. But then on top of this, we have an application running on our computers. Do we agree or no?
Yeah.
Some application. You have now on your application, Zoom application. Okay, we have, for example, Outlook application, Word, Excel, all this application, okay, and the operating system itself. Can someone tell me, you know how many lines of code that Windows 2011 does have to write the Windows 2011? How many lines of code?
Maybe a million.
More than million. You'll be surprised.
Billion, 70 million, I think.
50 million. Who said 50 million?
Me, say.
Okay. Nasiba, 50 million lines of code.
Yeah.
You know how many teams they write in Windows? There's so many teams, okay, to end up with a 50 million line of code, okay? So you can tell, I can tell you without even really think about it, there's so many mistakes is done already. Okay, I know that they have quality control and they have improved, but until now, if you go online and look at Windows 11 vulnerabilities or weaknesses, you can find a list from Microsoft itself saying we have find these all vulnerabilities within our Windows 11. Please go and install the updates. Okay, our application also, guys, are full of bugs, and there is a difference between bugs and the flows. Okay, and what is the difference between bugs and flows? So here, guys, bugs means that you wrote something wrong, so they called it syntax error or syntax error. Syntax error. Syntax error. So, for example, you write, for example, a line of code in PHP and you forget
semicolon.
Semicolon.
Yeah.
Okay? So this is an error. So this is a bug. Your compiler can actually catch this bug easily. Okay, but sometimes it's really he cannot catch it, and end up with an error in your bug in your software. But you have a flows that is semantic errors, like this flows that you have already. Let's say that you create a variable, and this variable was expecting integer, and this integer is 8 digits. Okay, and you allowed someone from externally, okay, to input 10 digits into a variable which was supposed to be 8. They call this buffer overflow attacks.
Yeah.
And buffer overflow can lead to remote execution of code. Okay, if you really done it correctly. And I think there is one article in our website in Coding Dojo is talking about buffer overflow. But yesterday I didn't have the chance to talk about buffer overflow because we didn't really know what is vulnerability. So I said, okay, I'll talk about buffer overflow when we really get into vulnerabilities. Okay, guys. We have also.
Well, it's like it's really hilarious, if you go through all those coding and just to find some mistake or error. I don't know.
I'll tell you what. There is an organization, guys, called OWASP. Okay, OWASP. Okay, is an organization, a non-profitable organization. Every 3 years, they will list a list of 10 vulnerabilities that is well known in web application. Okay, if you guys to go with owasp.com, okay, or .org, you will find every 3 years they publish 10 different vulnerabilities, and these 10 vulnerabilities until now they are exploited, and they said most of the website exists, they are suffering from these vulnerabilities. And that's why when you work as a defender, okay, and you have a website, the logic sense are saying, okay, that I will go check OWASP 10 top vulnerabilities, and then I will go to my organization and implement a mitigation techniques to ensure these vulnerabilities are not exploitable. Okay, so when we read about vulnerability in OWASP on any place, you go back and ask yourself very good question. Is my organization really can be impacted by this vulnerability? So who can tell? The asset discovery you done. So if the asset discovery telling you that you have 2 web servers and these 2 web servers are publicly facing everyone, then I will say, okay, I know that OWASP saying now there is something called cross-site scripting. Okay, let me see if my website is vulnerable for cross-site scripting. Okay, and in OWASP website, they will tell you guys exactly what kind of the vulnerability is all about. Okay, what is the mitigation techniques for this vulnerabilities? Okay, guys.
Okay.
So this is all kind of vulnerabilities that exist. Okay, let me go quickly and saying there is so many software, as I mentioned, and all our computers are full of software. Okay, operating Windows, as we mentioned, utilities, driver, application, APIs. وطبعا we have also software that runs our network. So our router is a bunch of hardware and software. Okay, so even in a router, that could be a vulnerability. And even I have read recently that Cisco was really under a very bad vulnerability in their new routers series, and they have to install a new batch. So router, storage. You know what does storage mean? Some organization, they do have so much data. So they go and buy not a hard disk, they go and buy something called a storage system. And the storage system is basically a rack full of SSD, hard drive, and maybe mechanical hard drive. But the software, okay, that manages this all hard drive and allow you to write and read from this hard drive is just a software. So even this software could be vulnerable. Okay. So we have so many vulnerability exist in our environment. And database. Also, don't think about the database from only the idea of the database is full of data, which is just rows of data and columns. No, there is some software called database management solution that manage the database and manage the schema of the database and the architect of the database. This software itself is vulnerable as well. So you can imagine our hardware is vulnerable. I told you about that hardware vulnerable from the meltdown attacks, okay, from the Intel and AMD. Our application is vulnerable. Our operating system are vulnerable, okay? Our network, storage, databases are vulnerable. So imagine how many vulnerability exist in our organization, okay? Because we have so many and the system are very complicated, I need a solution that I can run and it can help me to find these vulnerabilities. And that's why we need a vulnerability scanner. Okay, guys? And that is actually the topic for today, is vulnerability scanner. But before I can explain to you the vulnerability scanner, I had to explain to you the risk and what is vulnerability, how the vulnerability is related to the risk, and what kind of threats exist. And we then finally, after we find that most of our system are vulnerable because it consists of hardware, software, operating system, database, and other stuff. Now I need a solution for this, and this is the solution for this: vulnerability scanners. Okay. Just let me go quickly for the vulnerability scanners. I know this lecture is long, but I'll just give you a quick vulnerability scanner. Okay. If you guys look at very simple, oversimplified explanation, if you are in an interview and they ask you what is a vulnerability scanner is all about, you will say detect and patch vulnerabilities in your system. So it will help you to detect unpatched vulnerability. It will not fix it for you, by the way. And this is important thing. So who is gonna fix it? Okay, you. It can help you only to say that, you know, you are running Windows machine or you're running Linux machine that is vulnerable, but it will not go ahead and fix it. It just highlight for you the issue. And you as an engineer, and that's why we need an engineer, because the engineer will read the report that's coming from the vulnerability scanner, and then he will look for solution. This is where you are valuable, because if that solution is automatic, okay, then we don't really need an engineer, because we run our vulnerability scanners, they will find out what is the vulnerability, and then it will try to rectify this vulnerability. But that's why we need a human. Once you read about this vulnerability, how can I solve this vulnerability? The first thing that you have to ask yourself, is it a really vulnerability or no? Okay, it's been highlighted. Let me double check. What is the criticality of this vulnerability? And then once you are sure it's a real vulnerability and it can be exploited, okay, you need to take the action, okay? And you need to rectify the issue. And that is why you are important. So here, detect any unpatched vulnerability in your system that can be used by the attacker. So in other ways, try to find your weakness before the bad guys will find your weakness. Okay, guys?
Okay.
So far, so good?
So far, so good.
Okay. Let me move on in this area. I will try to conclude very soon. I know that you guys are tired, but I'm trying to. Okay. Also, vulnerability scanning, okay, they do other stuff than just finding the unpatched system. They try to look at open ports. Because why open ports are important, guys? If your computer does have some open ports or has some open ports, that means someone from external can communicate with this computer. and send traffic back and forth. So it can tell you, wallahi, you are having Windows machine here, you have port 80 open, you have port 25 open, you have port 139 open. Okay, do you really need port 139? Okay, you will say, okay, you know what, I have port 80, I need port 80, but I don't really need port 25 and port 135. There is no business need. So it will help you to close the service that open this ports. Okay, so it can specify what is open ports. And I will tell you later on, inshallah, when we take a course in the last course about we will take a course about CEH, which is certified ethical hacking, why open ports can really pose a danger to your environment. We'll talk about this in more details. It can tell you if you are using a weak password within your organization, okay? Because some of the scanners come with something called fuzzer, and the fuzzer is, in a very simple way, is gonna send a brute force attack, username and password using a dictionary attack to your website. If you are using a very weak password, it can tell right away that you are using website and a weak password and highlight this for you in the report. Okay, guys? It can tell if you're using a default accounts, like you, for example, you configured a database, you left the database with SA username and password. It can say, okay, you know what, you are using the SA default account, please don't use it because this is an easy target for the attack. Okay, it can show you if you are exposing sensitive data. For example, you have a website, and this website, they have one file, okay, which is this file is important. Maybe it can tell all the directories in your file in your website, and it can reach this website using also something crawler. So it will crawl all over your website and find out about these files, and it will tell you in the report, by the way, we find very sensitive information about your website in this file, so make sure that you are hiding this file. Okay, and it will tell you if there is any security and configuration errors. Okay, so what is security issues? Maybe you have a very outdated Windows machine. Okay, so this is the security issues. Okay, or maybe you configured your Windows to allow some sort of protocol, okay, to connect without a username. So can it highlight this issue? Okay, so actually, in a very generic way, vulnerability scanner can tell you about the undetecting vulnerability inside your organization before the bad guy can found. But in deep details, it can give you more information. It can give you more information about default accounts, security issues, patches, and all this stuff. Okay, guys? And inshallah, today in the lab session, you will guys go through something called NISS. And NISS is bought by a company called Temple. So it's not anymore called NISS, but it's well known in the public as NISS. Okay, but again, what is NISS is all about. This application, what you're gonna install is gonna be basically a scanner, a vulnerability scanner. You're gonna run this vulnerability scanner against your Windows machine, or a website, or maybe your router at home, and you are expecting to see the results. Okay, did we find any vulnerabilities? And if these vulnerabilities are true or no? Okay, one more thing that I need to clarify here, guys, before I move on. Okay, how can I tell if it's a real vulnerability or it's not 100% vulnerability? Okay, by doing something called penetration testing. And you will find in our website the difference between vulnerability scanner, which is the give it the symbol VA, vulnerability scanner or vulnerability management, and penetration testing. What is the difference? In vulnerability scanner, guys, we just scan the website and look at the vulnerability and they try to find a way to mitigate this vulnerability. In penetration testing, we take it to another level, which is basically validating it's a real vulnerability and we can exploit it or no. So we need, in this case, a skills of an ethical hacker. Every vulnerabilities we have, we need to verify. Can someone really exploit it or no? If someone, like an attack, exactly, like simulating an attack, okay? And that is not easy to do in real environment where production environment is there. That's why I told you, one of the ways to actually validate if you have a vulnerability, if you have a testing environment. You have a similar web server, and in this web server, you will look at the vulnerabilities, and then you will try to exploit these vulnerabilities. Okay, guys, so far so good. Now we know what's the difference between vulnerability assessments and pen testing. Okay, I can see only 3 is saying yes. How about the rest? I'm sorry, guys. The first few days it's a bit boring because I'm just laying the foundation. Okay, so everyone needs to be clear about risk and and vulnerabilities and what does this have to do with our organization. So I'm trying to oversimplify things until we reach to a very solid ground, and then we can discuss things. I promise today we will discuss things that you have read in the website, but I have not done this because we have so much to cover. Okay, guys. Sorry, I just wanted to move one more slide, and this I promise this is gonna be the last slide before we're gonna take a rest. Okay.
It's all relationship about this. All subject is make the subject clear.
Yes, exactly. So I just wanted you guys to remember what we are doing right now. You know where we are right now? We are in this stage. That is the stage that we are in right now. Let me just clarify this. Here, we are in this stage, guys. Okay? We are starting to understand our business. So some of you guys will start to work for Aramco. Some of you, the oil and gas company. Some of you is gonna work for utility company, like maybe gas. Maybe like electricity company or whatever. Some of you is gonna work in a bank. Some of you is gonna work for another environment like manufacture or whatever. Okay, so you have to understand your business environment. You need to create an assets discovery model to understand what is information assets, what is system you have in your environment, and start to run the risk assessment. Part of the risk assessment is vulnerability identification. Do you guys understand where we are right now?
Yeah.
Why we are here in this stage? Because again, remember the guy who is called Sun Tzu? He said, "You what? In order to win a war, to understand yourself." Exactly. Yeah. In order to understand yourself, you need to understand your weaknesses. Okay. So who is gonna help you in understand your weakness is basically to identify your weaknesses using security scanner. Okay. And then once you find your weakness, and also once you find your threats, you can say, okay, let me now put priority. What is the most really dangerous risk to my environment? What is the medium risk and what is a low? So we will start to say there's a high risk, there's a medium risk, there's a low risk. Okay, once you understand what is high and medium and low, at that time only, guys, you will be able to choose which control you will apply. You will go to communicate this risk to the management and say, okay, you know what? After we done vulnerability scanning, after we validate this vulnerabilities, after we done something called threat modeling, I will talk about it inshallah. Okay, now I can tell you there is a risk inside our organization, and some of these risks are very high. We need to take an immediate action to remediate this risk or to rectify the risk, and some of them are not that critical. Okay, then the management, if they trust you enough, they will allocate to you a budget, and according to this budget, you will start to implement protection control, detection control, and response controls. So now we understand the big picture?
Yeah.
Yes?
Vulnerability scanning is considered as a risk assessment.
Okay, risk assessment consists of, I will tell you, risk assessment consists of 3 stages. Okay, the first stage is to know what your assets. Okay, how do you know your assets? There's so many ways. you can really go and ask every department what is important in their environment, okay? What is critical for them to do the job. So this is called this is called as assets identification. Once you have the asset identification and you have list of these assets and their IP address, okay, and where is they are located, you start to go and do something called vulnerability assessment, okay? You run your vulnerability on these assets to find out which assets is vulnerable and which asset is not vulnerable. Do we agree so far?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay,
Okay.
now I am.
And then you need to also know that vulnerability is not all the same. Some vulnerabilities are critical and need an immediate action, and some of them are not important, okay? So you need to come up with something called risk score. Once you have the risk score, which is a number from 1 to 10, can tell you if it's 10, that's mean very high risk. You need to take an immediate action. Okay, if it's 5, it's a medium. If it's 3, below, it's low. Okay, Ostesa? So this is the risk assessment. And if you wanted to see the risk assessment life cycle here, I have included here in this diagram. Let me show you. We go one step down. Okay. This is what we see here is risk management. This step specifically, okay, this is risk assessment. Assessment, we give a score, okay, and this score is gonna be according to numbers, money, or qualitative, high, medium, low. Okay, so when we come up with a score, we done our risk assessment. And this score, as I mentioned, could be high, medium, or low. Okay, once we finish this, says, I don't know who asked the question. Shaza. Okay, once we finish this, says Shaza, what we will do, when you have a score and priority for what we need to work on it, we will go and try to implement what we learned before from controls. We'll do risk mitigation. Risk mitigation by applying control, which could be physical control, managerial controls, technical control, and these controls could be preventive control, like protection controls, or could be detective controls, or could be responding controls or recovery control. Okay, so far so good?
Yes, so far so good.
Okay, perfect. So let me go back. I'm sorry, I just keep jumping back and forth, but I wanted you guys to have the clear picture before we go and talk about something else. Okay. So I mentioned that vulnerability scanner is important because we have so many assets. We need to make sure that we scan all the assets, we highlight the vulnerabilities, and we also mentioned that the vulnerability scanner is not just to tell you which system is unpatched. No, it can tell you which default access count. Okay, but then here, why validating, okay, vulnerability scanner is important, and I will explain this is very important thing, and you will find it also on our website. Okay, sometimes guys, when you have a report from a vulnerability scanner, it can show you something called false positive. Okay, false positive mean in a very simple way that it has recognized something as vulnerability, but in matter of fact, it is not. So it says your Windows have vulnerability, but when you go and verify, okay, it's not. So this is where we need penetration testing. So we can verify and we can understand, is it false positive or not? يبقى scan detected a vulnerability, but the vulnerability does not really actually exist. Who can really tell if it's a vulnerability or no? The penetration tester. So a problem with vulnerability scanner is false positive. So what I wanted you guys to do when you run a scanner, okay, you will find list of 10 vulnerabilities. Not all of them are vulnerabilities. Just verify if it's really vulnerability or not. Okay, how can I verify? There's two ways to do it. First of all, a way if you have the skills of penetration testing. Okay, so inshallah, when we teach you penetration testing in the third cohort, in the third month, okay, you will have the skills to really go and use some tools in Kali Linux to try to exploit this vulnerability. Okay, or if I wanted to check if it's false positive or no, I can run another sort or another application vendor scanner. Okay, guys. So I will, let's say I'm using Nesses here. I will go use NetExpose from Rapid7, and I will check the same system. If both of them agreed that this system is vulnerable, it's highly likely this system is vulnerable. So I'm verifying by using another scanner. So this is two ways to verify your scan results. Either to run another scanner on the same system and try to see what is the common things that both systems agreed about. And most probably, if they both scanner agreed about certain vulnerability, it's a real vulnerability. Okay, most of the time. No, I will not say 100%. There's no 100%. Okay, or you can use your skills as penetration testers to verify if it's false positive or not. Okay. What is very dangerous, guys? Okay, what is really dangerous? The second type here. Okay, if another thing that you need to know, if it's a positive only, means it's a real vulnerability. If it's a positive, if it's true positive, mean it's a real vulnerability, 100%. خلاص. What's really scary, it's false negative. Okay, guys? What is false negative? Okay, I mentioned to you guys how the scanners work. The scanners does have a database, which is an updated database, okay, for all the vulnerabilities that exist in until certain time, okay? And he scan your system and compare it with the vulnerability database, and when there is a match, it will highlight it in the report, okay? What if your system is vulnerable, okay, but there is no signature here in the database for the vulnerability? What will happen? The report will not include your vulnerability. And you know what kind of vulnerability that's you know what kind of vulnerability now you have in your system? Can someone tell me? Okay, we agreed about what is false negative means. Mean vulnerability exists. Your scanner run the vulnerability scanning, but shows you nothing. Okay, it shows you no results, but the scan did not detect it. Okay, what vulnerability you have? You have something unique called 0 days. Bravo.
0 days.
You have 0 days. Means your scanner could not really recognize it. Okay, and you yourself doesn't know it exists, but your system have weaknesses. Okay. Okay, the first run, what after the first vulnerability? Okay, Hadil is asking. Sorry, Hadil, can you explain? I'm sorry, but you mean I'm sorry, the first run.
The false vulnerability. What we said to run another scanner, but before that we need to do what? The first one.
Okay, so you mean, let's say Ustaza Hadil. Okay, I have Windows system. Okay, I have a Windows system. Okay, and now I wanted to check if there's a vulnerability in this Windows system. So what I will do is I'm gonna use scanner to scan my Windows system. Okay, and according to a database within the scanner, it can come up with a nice report. I will explain. This is the report coming here, saying all the vulnerability exists in your Windows. Okay, and some of these vulnerabilities are high, some of their vulnerabilities are critical, some of them are medium. Okay, do we agree, guys? And that's why there's another very important thing here. You need to keep your vulnerability scanner up to date. What we mean by up to date, it will go, it check in the main website for updates and new vulnerabilities that exist, and it update the database accordingly. Okay, so it come up with a report, ya Ustaz Hadid, okay, with all your vulnerability. You okay with me till this point?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes, I'm with you.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah.
Okay, okay, then now I have a list of vulnerability. How can I really know if this is a real vulnerability or a false positive? Because I mentioned to you, false positive mean the scanner shows it's a vulnerability, but in a matter of fact, it's not. How can I really be sure? Okay, exactly, Ustaz Al-Almiya. Be sure by trying to exploit this vulnerability. Unfortunately, I don't have the skill sets right now to exploit vulnerability. So what can I do? If I'm engineer, real engineer, and I don't know really anything about hacking, so I don't know how to exploit. Okay. Yes. Yeah, says Naif, the scan sometimes is dumb. Okay. So it's giving a false positive. And this is one of the really issues. But in some cases, it really can pinpoint what vulnerability exists in your system. Okay. And it can show you what is the latest vulnerability. So you have a Windows, and Microsoft, they said this Windows is vulnerable. You have not yet updated your Windows. You run your scanner can tell you your Windows is updating this and this and this, and this vulnerability well known now for Microsoft that someone can exploit your system. So sometimes it's really useful, and sometimes it's gonna give you a headache. And that's why, Ustaz Naif, working as a vulnerability assessor, okay, or someone who run the vulnerability scanner is a job. It's a job. You know, this is, you will find sometimes I didn't see it a lot in the Middle East, but you can see it a lot in the States and America and in Europe. You will find a job called vulnerability assessment management, or a vulnerability assessment engineer. They wanted an engineer who is his whole sole job is just to look at vulnerabilities and run his vulnerability scanners, because his all days can tell this is a false positive. Okay, this is, oh, let me double check on this. Let me do this. Is the whole job, and this is his entire day is spending to scan and find vulnerabilities and rectify vulnerabilities. Why again? Why I'm doing all this cycle? Because I wanted to detect my issues, my weaknesses, my flaws before the bad guys find out about it. So I hired a guy. This is his own job. Okay, and this guy over here, he needs to be really good in also penetration testing, so he can validate vulnerabilities and make sure he eliminate these false positive things. Okay, Asaz Naif, so it's a job type. What if I don't have this expertise right now, guys? I can go and install another vulnerability scanner. There is so many vulnerability scanners exist, but you go and look for one which is coming from a very good company like McAfee, Qualys, Rapid7. They all of them, they have really good scanners. Some of them are free, some of them are commercial, some of them you need to pay money. Okay, so in a company, they will not say to you, no, we'll not give you $400 a year to get a subscription. They will tell you, yes, go ahead. We need a quality scanner. So you can install 2 scanners and scanning the same Windows system. Okay, and when you scan, it will create another report. Okay, usually the report also will come with vulnerabilities. Okay, compare between this report and this report. Okay, there is some tools that can compare between these 2 different reports and can show you the commons. Commons means that you run 2 scanners, and in the 2 scanners they're saying certain vulnerability exists. Most probably you have tried now to verify if the vulnerability really exists or no. If the 2 scanners show the same vulnerability, most probably it's not a false positive, it's a real vulnerability. Okay, Ustaz Hadid, did this answer your question?
Yes, but my question is actually, when we detect a false positive,
Okay.
thank you for the explanation. I took a lot of time with your time actually, but what I'm really asking is, you say to detect the false positive or to make sure it's a false positive, we can run another scanner, like you say, and the other method. What's the other method?
The other method is penetration testing. If you have the
Okay.
skill, if you have the skills to do penetration testing, then you can validate if it's a false positive or not. I'll give you examples. So can we close this topic for again? So now you say that you run one scanner and you have a report saying your Windows missing is does have a vulnerability, which is vulnerability blah blah blah, and this vulnerability exists because you are running service of SMB, which is a vulnerable service. Okay, Ustaza? So now my turn, okay, my scanner saying there's a vulnerability, and I don't know if it's real positive vulnerability or a false positive, right? I don't know. So what I can do is I can have a machine that's the one that you set up yesterday, which is Kali Linux. There is some tools in Kali Linux, they called it exploitation framework. There's so many of them, okay? You can use the exploitation framework and you can give the exploitation, the framework, the name of this vulnerability and the IP address for this system and say, go try to exploit this system. If it's exploited and you gain access, that's mean 100% exploited, okay? Usually, you cannot do this without permission, even if you are working in an environment. So you need to say to your manager, I need to exploit this vulnerability to verify if it's exploitable or not. Okay, so he will give you two options. The option is this server is not important and you can try to exploit the servers after working hours, or this server are very important and you cannot do anything on this server. You need to create your test environment and have a copy of this Windows over here and to try to exploit this machine. See if you can able to exploit. If you're able to exploit it in the test environment, that means 100% that your Windows is now, this one is exploitable and you need to find a rectify or remedy for this Windows. Or you need to find a patch for this Windows. Does this answer your questions?
Yes, yes.
Okay. It's okay, Hadi, even if I miss one word, okay, because sometimes I'm thinking about other stuff, you just send me a direct message on Discord and we can talk about it. Okay, guys. I promise this is gonna be the last one. So I'm just gonna show you the website. Okay. Just one thing before we go, because I wanted to clear things. Okay. A scanner is already set up. You need to set up this for the lab. Configure the scan type. Scan type means what kind of environment or what kind of system I'm gonna scan. I'm gonna scan website. So there is a one scan only for website. It looks for exactly vulnerability exists in website. I'm gonna scan Windows environment. So I'm gonna scan Windows environment. Okay. I'm gonna scan OT environment like oil and gas and industry stuff. So I'm gonna tell them I want to scan SCADA environment. So they will give you too many options, okay? And every option is specialized for a certain environment, okay, guys? And then set your target. What is the IP address that you want the scanner to look at? So you need to specify the IP address of your router, the IP address of a certain website, the IP address, okay? And then the scan runs for maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, according to how big is your environment is. Some scanning, I done a scanning before, it took 8 hours. Some scanning, it takes 24 hours. It depends, okay? But again, I wouldn't recommend to do the scanning during working hours, especially if you work in production environment. Why? Because it can really disturb the service on the server, okay? And some of this scanning, they do something called intrusive scanning. يعني إيه? They simulate denial of service. So imagine you have a production server which is working and you running scanning that simulate intrusive and denial of service. You can cause a disaster. So my advice, when you run the scanning, you do it on after you take probation, for sure, you let your manager know, you let the owner of the system knows, okay? You go and pick the time where there is no much activity on the server, or if you are worried about all the stuff, you can implement your test environment and take a copy of the server with all this dependency and everything and run the scanning on it. Okay, once you get the result, your work starts. When you are validating the vulnerability, when looking for a mitigation for these vulnerabilities, this is where we need you to really look at. Okay, guys, so far so good. Now, important thing when you go in the interview, they will ask you, okay, have you ever used a vulnerability scanner? Yes. Why are you using a vulnerability scanner? So we return to my my lecture, and remember, this is the knowledge. We run the scanners to find out about vulnerabilities before the bad guys find out about our undefined or vulnerabilities. Okay, what kind of scanners exist? There's so many ones. The one that I have an experience with is Nessus. Okay, so what happened when you run the scanning? You said, I will choose first of all to set up the scanner machine. I will use my target. I will choose my target. I will choose what kind of scan types that I need according to the network and the Windows environment or Linux environment. Then I will run the scan. The results comes, and I will look at the criticality of each of them. Okay. If you guys can see my screen. Okay, so learning. Okay, okay, this is the learning platform, right? Can you guys see the learning platform right now?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so this is
Yes,
what
it's
we have
clear.
covered today. Okay, the vulnerability. So, okay, let me check if we cover everything for the day. Okay, guys, I wanted you, inshallah, tomorrow also to read the website, and then we will have a discussion about what you have read in the student. Okay. So,
Mr. Shadi,
yes.
since you're in the website, like, how can I know if this is our lecture for today? Because yesterday I was like, I submitted a Nessus installation assignment. I don't know, just can you give us a quick tour
Okay,
on the
perfect.
website?
Very good question. Okay. Okay, so what we are having here, guys, so today we are in week 1, day 2, because we are on Monday, right? So week 1, this is the first week in the boot camp, and this is day number 2. So we gonna, and let's say that's خلاص, we are finishing these days, ya Ustaz. Okay? So what I'm expecting you to do by end of this day, I have already explained the topics here, which is the lecture for today. Okay? Now, afternoon session, Asads or some of the instructors, they will come and go for, as you can see here, this is gonna be your assignment for the day. So they will give you a quick tour how to do the assignment. Okay? Once they finish the quick tour, now we will go ahead and start to implement whatever in this assignment. Okay? Where is whatever in this assignment? Here, scanning networks. So they will tell you here the scanning networks, what you're gonna do in the scan. Okay, Ustaza?
Yeah.
So
So we
day
have to assignment today for today.
No, installation of the installation,
Installation.
they will give you a
Yeah.
very easy way to do an installation, and then you scan. It's all of them in this part of the same vulnerability scanners. Okay, once you finish this, we finish for the day. What I wanted you two guys to do when you go home, okay, sorry, you are at home. Okay, when you are at home, okay, you will start to look at day 3. So here, for example,
attack physical.
Day 1, sorry, week 1, day 3. I wanted you at home when you are really having a tea time at night, you go into the website and look at these topics. So tomorrow we'll talk about some attacks, because today we covered vulnerabilities. There is also another part of risk. is to understand what kind of threats out there, okay? What kind of malwares out there? What kind of actually things that can harm our confidentiality, integrity, and availability? So you apply, okay, what is the social engineering? What is the denial of service? What kind of network attacks? This is at night. So tomorrow, inshallah, when I explain the topic and we have a discussion, it will be easy for you to understand what I'm saying. Okay, just if you read and you get 50%, and in the lecture I explain and you get the other 50%, now your knowledge is complete.
Okay. And the assignment checklist.
Okay. Yes.
What is that? Because can you click it just like to the assignment checklist? It's in the upper menu.
Where is it? I'm sorry, I can't see.
فوق.
Okay, فوق. Okay.
أعلى شيء فوق. بعد فوق اركز زيادة بالماوس.
Okay.
Yeah, there. It's the assignment checklist.
In the main menu.
Yeah, it's a bit slow. Sorry.
Yeah, what is this? Like
No, this is not us. You're not supposed to see this. I will talk with
okay.
you.
Yes, it's actually, yeah, we have something else. We have like NESAs and other
yeah, okay.
assignments. But
okay, if you have the assignments checklist, it means basically what you're gonna do in assignments. Okay, but I don't go for this for assignments. What I will go for the assignments is what I have here. Okay, in each day, so we don't get any confusion. Here in the password cracking, do you see this bin? That's mean your assignments. Okay, what is in the password cracking? They will tell you install John the Ripper. Okay, after they show the John Ripper and download this file of hashes, and then run the John and the Rippers against this file of hashes and extract the hashes. Okay, so this is the assignment. It will tell you exactly what you do here, and that is the important thing. Okay, for tomorrow, okay, we will go to this after Asad and after the instructor finish and read the instructor here and start to do the assignments. Okay, so don't confuse yourself with the assignments menu at all. Okay.
How about if I go through all of it?
You can go for all of it, okay? But the thing is, we need to keep things interesting. What do I mean by this? Okay, let's say that you are scanned today, Bassam, your router, and you find some vulnerabilities. Fine. Okay, shall I stop here? No. There is some website exists in the internet that can allow you to scan it for free and find the vulnerabilities. Okay. And this file of website are made vulnerable by intentionally, so you can find this vulnerability. Go look for one of these websites and scan it and come up with a report and try to understand this report. I told you guys you don't have the skill sets now to exploit vulnerabilities, but at least
I understand, but I've been through all those, so I think if I could able to go through it all.
Yeah, if you wanted to go all over them, you have the time and you submit them, all of them, okay, and you require, we can give you an advanced labs. Okay, we can create for you an advanced lab. If you want, just DM me in Discord, tell me that we need an advanced lab for every day, and this is something I have done before for like someone who's really wanted to practice more. We can give you more practice to do and add it to the website. No worries.
Is it from the website or from the SDA itself?
No. Okay, let me explain.
The advanced classes.
The advanced classes is not going to be advanced class. It's going to be advanced lab, advanced assignments. So it's going to be an extra assignments for someone who's saying, okay, you know what? I have done this in my university. I need maybe more advanced labs for myself. So something I can learn something new from them. So we can add labs accordingly. Some of our team members, they are really into hacking. Okay. So we can develop for you guys, especially hacking labs. So, but again, it's according to skills. But right now we are in the first week. I don't want really to get people really to lose their minds and take so much time when they do the assignments. We are taking it baby steps. Until, inshallah, when we give you assignments, it can take 1 day to do.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shadi.
Okay, perfect. Okay, guys, I'm sorry that I took so much time today. Again, I hope this was clear for you. And again, the website, the lecture, and what you see in YouTube is gonna build your knowledge. And what I have taught you today is a scratch of what is vulnerability is all about. Okay, if you wanted to know about more vulnerabilities, I would highly recommend read the website, listen to the lecture, and then you have a great website called Database Exploits. Database, I will type it here, I will show you guys. You can learn about vulnerabilities. Okay. And this is will list all the exploit that is being discovered recently. And each of these exploit, guys, you can just go, okay, and click it. And it will show you which application. Okay, so there's application called Testa, online test management system. Okay, they find an they find the vulnerabilities, and these vulnerabilities, there is an exploit ready for it. So you can download the exploits, and if you have this vulnerability within your organization, you can run this exploit against it and see if it's exploitable or no. So this is another step if you want to play around with exploits. So this website is great source of learning. And again, as we mentioned, we are just taking it. Inshallah, we'll move on to the professional and the intermediate session, inshallah, in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Okay, guys, have a great day. Enjoy your inshallah lunch break, and I will see you inshallah 1:15.
Actually, I enjoy to listen for you, Mr. Shadi, maybe up to hours. I follow you, and greeting day. I'm coming from Competentia Advanced Certification Plus, and thank you for your knowledge.
Okay,
and
thank you.
Today I will prepare to write down CEH exam.
MashaAllah.
And I succeed all Competentia exams. So thank you for your knowledge.
Okay, great. Have a great day, guys.
Do you know who I am?
I know who you are. I know you are a humor previous students.
I'm Najd, not Nist.
Yeah, I know. No, I know you are Najd, 100%. I know you. I was like, how come that you are still here, Najd?
But actually, after I write down Linux Plus, new version 0.05, and after Competentia Advanced Security Practitioner, and after Cybersecurity Competentia Analyst, thank you for your knowledge. You are a big source, Mr. Shadi.
It's good to see you, mashallah.
And in 19 September, after e-council certified network defender, also thank you.
Okay, mashallah.
And good way in cybersecurity, qualified all things about network. When you know network very well, you can succeed in pen tracing and security and advance and attack, all it. Okay, also, when you're talking about vulnerability or finding vulnerability in systems,
Najd, we need to have you as an
it's
instructor.
not like it's not like all assessment tools. It's business at the end, but you need to put technique to learn from the door, not out of door. So a lot of attack planning, maybe 6 months to maybe 2 years, just to learn it to the system from inside, not outside. So something you don't have it, and after that existing, something you know it, but don't have it, then after that you have it. Some stupid employer inside organization put what you wanted to like exploitation or gun, been exploiting. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Najd, are you a student in this or you are part of the SDA now?
No, Mr. Shadi. Now I am student with the e-council.
E-council, okay.
Yeah. and I finish. And I'm just prepare myself to write down the exam to get international license. After that, I'll write down, maybe you know about SSE 100 from Microsoft, because I finished it all foundation Microsoft. So congratulations
No,
for
no, I tell you what,
me and for you,
inshallah, I want
because
to
you are my teacher, my own teacher. So
MashaAllah,
thank you
Najd is
for
very
a
brilliant
big
student.
source. Yeah, and I finish in Cisco CCNP, not only CCNA.
MashaAllah. So
And I
Najd, I tell
succeed
you what,
in it.
I wanted you to prepare a quick demo.
Wait.
Certification.
After that, I prepare now to CISSP. And from now, I tell you, Mr. Shadi, celebrate with me to succeed.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah.
I believe in myself.
Okay, MashaAllah. I wanted you know what?
Yes.
I wanted you to
Yes,
prepare
yes.
a lecture about certification, because you now, MashaAllah, have done so many
Actually,
certifications.
Mr. Shadi, a lot of one asked me these questions. What do you want to be after 5 years? What your goal of qualified over all of these international certifications and license? I wanted to be most important in the Middle East involved cybersecurity in full of 5 years. So I'm not gonna leverage knowledge only about security. I leverage knowledge about cloud. Why? Cloud now is most important, and all of organization put data in cloud, not you see it in session storage. It's cheapest way
The
to keep
data
it.
residency,
Yes.
it's a huge deal though.
Yes.
Yeah, huge risks in cloud
Yeah.
computing.
You're going to force yourself to know a little bit from everything to connect it with security. Now, web applications, you can build your application from cloud, not only from scratch, and it's cheapest intelligent solution. Also about graphical, a lot, I think. So to shine in this field, you must qualify a lot of related and relevant other files inner to security, not only security. Because when you want to know something about security, first time you might know about network, then connected between network and security of network. So you wanted to know about cloud, then connected between the cloud and the security of a cloud, a lot of everything.
I agree with Najd. In order to be a really good in security, you need to understand a lot about systems, networks, and application, and even application development. So
Actually, Mr.
inshallah,
Fadi, I give you small examples. When you want to planning professional certifications like CISSP. CISSP is most important certifications, and very good to get alternative from maybe Beturabr or everything. I rejected some offer from Beturabr, tell you now. Yeah, last week. CISMA better than CISSP. Why? Because it is operational, particular, so it is combined between two parts, but CISSP only when you're talking about a lot of information without operation, but CISMA operational. So when you go to write it down, CISMA, don't force yourself at first. Just stay in CISSP and follow step by step in the all models inside it, understand it. Then pass exam. After that, you don't need to get a proof to a company about SISMA. Just follow it, the application, then be sure company will issue the certifications after pass the exams without any requirement of experience. CISSP and CAPS plus enough to get that. Don't focus on security plus. It's not important certifications now.